Hey everyone and welcome back on channel. My name is Alex. In today's video we have a comparison between the Boston 12 and the Boston 13. This video is sponsored by Top 4 Running and they have no interest in me giving these shoes a good or a bad review. This is a comparison, so not even a review, but anyways. They offer lots of brands, lots of models on their website, top4running.com, and if you use code META, M-E-T-A, you can just get a discount. We get a small kickback, which helps us to grow the channel. Thank you very much for using that discount code and the link in the description. First of all, let's look into the specs. We have two shoes with very similar specs. There's a few small differences that I'm going to cover right here. The Boston 12 comes at 37mm of stack height in the heel, 36mm of stack height in the heel for the Boston 13. That's 1 less millimeter on the shoe. The drop is 6.5 on the Boston 12 for that 30.5mm in the forefoot, 6mm on the Boston 13 for that 30mm in the forefoot. So very similar specs on the two shoes indeed. The weight is 276 grams in my size US 11 EU 45 on the Boston 13, 283 grams on the Boston 12. So just an extra 7 grams between the two shoes, which is not a huge difference. The two shoes are priced at the same price, 160 euros, $160. That doesn't move. This shoe, the Boston 13, releases 1 year and 10 months or almost 2 years after this one. And with many prices going up in this world, it's very good to see that some brands can keep prices the same, even 2 years after releasing a product. On the updates, the price is the same, and that's quite nice. The upper is changing a lot. The upper of the Boston 12 is fairly brassy from the outside, feels a bit plasticky. The laces are weird, to be honest. They go through these very special eyelet chain holes that I don't think offer the best experience ever. They work, but they do not offer the best experience ever. But most importantly, this upper is poor because of the tongue that is super thin and flimsy. I do not like it, but what I hate most about the Boston 12's upper is the heel counter. Very rough, very harsh, very unpleasant against the foot, and doesn't offer the best lockdown at all. The Boston 13 addresses all of these issues. Looking at the upper material, it's still on the abrasive texture side of things. However, it is much more pleasant against the skin, against the feet inside the shoe. That's a much better experience, much elevated experience. Tongue of the Boston 13 has also been reinforced. It's thicker, it's more padded, and in general, it's just so much nicer when lacing the shoes to have that extra bit of comfort. It probably comes at, the expense of a few grams of weight, but it's just so much better. The laces and the lace pattern is also more traditional. There's no more, weird holes here in the middle section of the eyelet chains. It's a more traditional eyelet chain on both sides, and it just works flawlessly. The laces are pretty much the same. I would call them average to average minus type of laces. They're not the cheapest or the worst out there, but they're definitely far from being the best. I mentioned the tongue. The heel cup, heel collar is also now reinforced, much more padded, and most importantly, it offers a great lockdown experience, adding lots of comfort to this shoe. The insoles on the two shoes are removable, and then as you can see for the pliability of the heel counter, heel cup, it's much more pliable here on the Boston 12, less so on the Boston 13. If you have any issue with your heel, with your Achilles insertion, and you care about pliability of the heel, that's for you. I'm doing this for everyone, but most importantly for you. When it comes to the midsole of the two shoes, so upper, I think, the clear winner is the Boston 13, needless to say, but I'm saying it anyways. The midsole of the two shoes have a similar construction. 2 layers of foam of different densities, different nature, and in between is sandwiched or are sandwiched energy rods 2.0, which are a bit different on the two shoes. As you can see here on the lateral side from the outside, the energy rods are sticking out here in the midfoot section, in the midfoot area, whereas here on the Boston 13, they are visible a bit more backwards towards the heel, which I think was done to improve the stability of the shoe because the foam is also a bit softer. So softer sometimes can mean a bit less stable, and I think that's why they moved the visible side of energy rods with that extra kind of winglet on the side to make the shoe a bit more stable when landing laterally on your feet. The construction I said is the same, the proportions are not the same. So top layer is Light Strike Pro on the two shoes, energy rods in between, and then underneath is a layer of Light Strike 2.0, EVA base, a bit more traditional foam that is here to stabilize the shoe and to offer some support under the Light Strike Pro layer. Lightstrike Pro is technically the same, although I believe it's a bit different here. That's the cooking of Lightstrike Pro. But what's super important is that there is more Lightstrike Pro on the Boston 13. 13.8% more, 14%, let's call it, more Lightstrike Pro on this shoe, which means that there is a bit more thickness in that top part of the shoe, top layer of foam, and you can definitely feel it. The Boston 13 is more comfortable, more cushioned. I wouldn't say more plush because it's still very dynamic and very lively, but it's definitely on the plusher side of things compared to the Boston 12. The Boston 12 is a fantastic shoe nevertheless when it comes to the ride. I really enjoy the ride of the shoe. It's very capable. Because of the upper, I like it less than the Boston 13 for sure, but putting the upper aside, the midsole of this shoe is still very capable. It's a bit firmer, a bit denser. It requires, it protects the legs a bit less, let's put it that way. Whereas the Boston 13 will protect your legs a bit more, will offer a bit more cushion, a bit more comfort, and a softer experience in general. In terms of capabilities, the two shoes are very similar. They cover perfectly a range between endurance paces, so long run pace and half marathon pace. So that's a very wide spectrum of paces. They can go slower, it's not the best. They can go faster, it's probably also not the best. But if you want to have that one shoe that can do everything in your training regimen, it can be a Boston. You may ask, why should I pick one and not the other? If you want a more discounted shoe, go for the Boston 12. It's going to be heavily discounted now on the internet and also in factory outlets that Adidas has. The Boston 13 will be fully priced, or will be, retailing at its recommended price of €160, $160, which doesn't mean you cannot get a discount, because if you use code MEDSA on toprunning.com, you will get a small discount and we get a small kickback in return. That's how you can lower the price of this shoe. The outsole is also different. You have full continental rubber on the Boston 12 and a mix of light traction and in-house translucent rubber from Adidas and a bit of continental under your big toe. The difference is very subtle and I didn't notice any grip or traction difference between the two shoes. Light traction is supposedly lighter. This is why Adidas is using it. And that extra bit of Continental Pro here in the forefoot under your big toe is just to help avoid any slippage when you're pushing on your big toe before toeing off. So, everything taken into consideration, the two shoes are great all-rounders at the same price, technically, because like I said, the Boston 12 will be discounted heavily in the coming weeks, in the coming month, because this shoe, the Boston 13, is releasing. However, if you want a better upper experience, more comfort, more plushness in the upper, but also in the midsole with a softer and more pleasant experience, go for the Boston 13. Do not hesitate. If you do not mind an upper that is, so-so or less than average, and a firmer, denser ride, maybe slightly more stable is something you're after, go for the Boston 12. That's pretty much it. I hope this is, straightforward. This helps you. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. And in the meantime, enjoy your run, enjoy your ride, go beyond your limits, and see you in the next one.